shall officially call to order the September 9th board meeting for Coastside County Water District. And why don't we have a pledge of allegiance? Are we allowed to have a pledge of allegiance before we do a roll call?
Would you like to have a roll call first?
Let's do a roll call first.
Okay.
For something different.
Director Coverdell is absent. Vice President Michelson?
Present.
Director Flint?
Here.
Director Glassberg is absent. President Reynolds.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we would at this time take public comment, but we don't have any public, so we'll move on. Do any directors have anything that they'd like to pull from the consent calendar? And I see, Chris, that you did the review of our claims.
Yeah, and I found everything to be in order.
Excellent, thank you. Do you have anything you want to pull?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay.
Nor
Do
do
you have
I.
anything you want to pull? And I have nothing to pull. So we'll go with a roll call for the consent calendar.
How about a motion to approve it?
Oh, all right. I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Perfect. Now can we all shout aye?
You can do that one every time.
We allowed to do an aye for this one? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Ayes have it.
It's our last aye for the week, though, isn't it?
Aye, aye, aye.
Damn, 7:01, and we're moving right through the agenda.
7:15.
Do you have any meetings attended or comments? that you-
No, I have not attended any meetings in the past meeting cycle, so I have nothing to add.
Okay, do you have any meetings or
I
comments?
have not,
Okay,
no meetings.
okay.
Just one question, I don't know if you've had a chance to kind of think about that, the painting of the fire plugs in the downtown area at all, or? You had any chance to talk about that a few weeks
We
ago?
thought
We
about
did
it
talk
for-
about it.
Yeah, we thought about it for about a minute. We're not really in favor of it
Okay,
here. I mean, we will if you want, but we'd rather not. It's something that you have to, the fire department has to be well aware of, that, they're not gonna be seeing a yellow fire plug, they're gonna see a patriotic looking fire plug or
Well, I
something like
remember the
Snoopy or
bicentennial
whatever,
ones.
whatever they do, those
Remember
things.
those?
yeah. I'll pass that along, that's fine.
Okay.
Who asked again? Who asked about that?
There's a beautification committee, was
Oh.
wondering.
There is precedence for painting them in the bicentennial year.
Yeah,
They were painted them.
you see that once in a while going through the towns in America, you see that painted.
For the
there.
tricentennial,
Yeah.
make sure we do it.
Okay. I can tell it's really high on the list around here. Moving on.
We're having a hard time just painting them yellow.
All right, then, moving on to our general business, we have a contract from Teamworks. Can't imagine where they'd work, but let's carry on.
All right. Well, as promised, we're meeting in our regular board room in September. This is not quite what I had envisioned when I told the board that, but nonetheless, here we are, and I think we will, unless the place is totally torn up, continue to try to meet in here through the construction process. In May, we thought this was going to move much faster. In May, we brought to you and you approved a contract or a proposal from S&H Renovations for remodeling. And we told you then that the total cost of the project was going to be about $400,000. S&H had estimated $185,000. That did not include everything that's in this current estimate. S&H, after kind of stringing us along for a while, basically couldn't meet our requirements. It couldn't come up with a bond. And we're legally required to have a bond for the project. So we had to move on. And we went to the other contractor who provided an estimate, Teamworks Construction. This is a much more a much higher, I think, a higher quality, higher end outfit. And they have worked closely with us. They have spent quite a bit of time, in the building defining exactly what it is needs to be done. And that's kind of what we envisioned in the first place. I think had we started with S&H, we would have discovered a lot of the things that Teamworks has come up with as they went along. The big issues with the building have been the electrical and, well, new electrical and data wiring and the HVAC. Those systems are both essentially being replaced, and the price is quite a bit higher than was accounted for in the initial estimate. But I think they've really done a good job of defining what needs to be done, and what seems like these guys are committed to doing the project and will do a good job for us. Their estimate is $329,000. That compares, if I include all the things that are in this estimate that weren't included in the earlier one, there's a difference of about $75,000, and that's almost all in electrical and HVAC. One of the things we thought would be important in updating this 1970 building was to get new lighting. So that's really a major piece of the electrical, is to have new indirect LED lighting that meets new code requirements, that has occupancy sensors and dimmers and all of things like that bring the energy efficiency up to modern standards. And that, it took us quite a while to work through what we had to do in order to accomplish that. And that includes taking down all the ceilings, where we thought before we'd kind of leave the ceilings alone. So we spent a lot of time going through some of those things, and that's why the price is higher. So I think the total cost won't be $400,000, it'll be somewhat higher. We still expect something like $130,000 of the cost to be reimbursed by insurance. And our insurance submittals so far, mostly for sort of business continuation costs, are, remind me the number again? 120, of which they've paid 75 or so so far. Yeah. So the insurance adjuster for the JPIA has worked very well with us, and they've pretty much approved everything that we've submitted. We haven't kind of negotiated the final construction and cleanup settlement. We've been trying to do that over did we get something from him this afternoon?
And nothing came through.
Okay, he promised to give us something this afternoon. But I think about 130 of it will be reimbursed. So what we're asking you to do tonight is to approve our awarding a contract to Teamworks Construction for a cost not to exceed $330,000. That's essentially a lump sum cost. We do have a few allowances in the estimate, but pretty much that's what the number's going to be. And they say they're going to be able to start work immediately, and it'll be an 8-week process.
Immediately being,
Within, assuming that there's no hang-ups on permits and things like that, within a week or two.
okay.
Yeah, I was noticing, the one thing that I saw in that was that there is no cost estimate for the permits themselves. Like Teamworks has said 0, so they're not paying for them.
Right, now we've already paid most of that.
Oh, you have, okay.
Right, we've already paid for the permits, and the costs for the design work to get the mechanical and electrical permits are included in those elements of the work by those subs includes design of HVAC and the design submittals required to get the electrical permit. So they're gonna do that.
Great.
Chris, any other comments?
No, it's nice, it really does start in the next couple of weeks and before Thanksgiving, because once we go into holiday season, all bets are off, things really slow down, and it'd be nice to have it behind us before we go to holiday season.
Make a motion?
Yeah, so moved. I forgot there's only 3 of us, we really gotta
Yeah.
get involved in motions and seconds.
I did the last one, so.
Yeah.
I'll second again.
All right, roll call, please?
Yes. Vice President Michelson?
Yes.
Director Flint?
Yes.
President Reynolds?
Yes. Our next item is the Coastside County Miramar Pipeline Connection Project.
Yeah, this is a very small project in the Miramar neighborhood, below the Miramar tank. We have along Miramar Drive, the pipe is not connected. There's only one route for the transportation of water to and from that tank. It comes down Alto. And what this will do, it will provide a loop in that neighborhood. It will improve the reliability in the event that there is a seismic event or whatever that could damage or one of the main pipe that goes up to that tank. If it ever fails, then we've lost that whole tank. This will provide us more reliability. And it will also, not that we have a bad water quality issue now, although sometimes the chlorine residual does get low along Miramar Drive going up there. This will alleviate that by eliminating 2 dead ends. And that's basically it. It's a small project. We opened up, we went out for bid. I think it was a 3 or 4 week bidding cycle, and we opened the bids last Tuesday. Andrini Brothers came in with the lowest bid, but they were all, as you can see, they were all pretty close.
Very close.
So what we're just asking is for approval to get started.
I got no comments on it.
Chris?
I was just looking up a pertinent. What is a pertinent
It
conduit?
means adjacent to or associated with.
Okay, got it. It could have used adjacent too.
I like, it's a nice word.
It's a good word.
Yeah, no, it was a good challenging word. You got me. It's working the vocabulary, so that's good.
Well, I'll make the motion this time.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right. I'll second.
Yeah, and we're $1 million a mile pipe,
No, it was $178 a foot.
which is very close to $1 million a mile. $940,000 a mile.
It has no service connection, so it's cheaper.
Yeah.
That's it.
So let's do roll call on this one, just.
Yes, please.
Vice President Michelson,
Yes.
Director Flint,
Yes.
President Reynolds.
Yes.
Perfect.
All right. We have the general manager's report.
Okay, here's something, I want to pass out something related to the first item. You know how you have mental telepathy?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The Denniston-San Vicente Draft Environmental Impact Report, the long-awaited Denniston-San Vicente Draft Environmental Impact Report, was filed on August 15th, and the 45-day comment period runs from August 19th to October 3rd. And it was sent to a whole list of interested agencies, including Montero Water and Sanitary District. And we just got today this letter from Montero Water and Sanitary District requesting an extension of the review period for another 15 days. So that would go until, I think, October 20th.
We can't act on this tonight, right?
Yes, we can.
Oh, we can?
Yeah, it's on the agenda,
Okay.
the items on, projects on.
I talked with both Pat Miyake and with our CEQA and water rights attorney, Alan Lilly, about this. It's really up to the agency's discretion. I think although we don't want to delay any more than necessary, I think it would be reasonable to preserve our good relationship with Montero Water and Sanitary District to allow this additional time. We don't think it'll have much impact on the overall process. So I would recommend that the board okay this extension of time for Montero. This doesn't extend the time for anybody else.
So I'm confused. Seriously, we can extend it for one agency, but
Yes.
not the others?
That's the legal opinion we've gotten.
Yeah, so we coordinated with Alan Lilly, who's the district's, as Dave mentioned, their water rights and CEQA lawyer for this particular project, because there's a lot of water rights issues that involve the Denniston project, and Alan Lilly has been quite involved in this, so he's been kind of leading the CEQA effort in coordination with Dave. And when we saw this request today, we contacted Alan and said, you know, what's the legal parameters for the board's ability to act on this and to go through here. And so he actually came back in an email today and said that the board has the authority to do this, can go up to 60 days. And the statutes and the guidelines, CEQA guidelines, would allow us to take action to approve an extension for one agency. It's not that it's clear in the statute that you can do this, but it's also not clear in the statute that you can't do this. And what Alan, in Alan's experience, he says it's a common practice for us to do that. And so that's what his recommendation is, and Dave and I talked it over, and we would concur with that. And because this is the only board meeting before the period runs, we would either need to act tonight or to have a special meeting, because the period runs October 3rd. So anyway, that's Alan's view, which I concur with.
Okay. Can I ask a related question?
Sure.
So the governor signed the new groundwater law, which will change how we work with groundwater extractions. It seems the only aquifer that I'm aware of that certainly that aquifer could fall under that ruling to become a regulated aquifer, could it not?
You know, I'm aware of the legislation, the 3 bills that deal with groundwater management. I have not studied it, and so I don't know exactly. I think part of this is in Kathleen's report,
Okay.
and she may be able to comment on it as well, but I haven't studied it from a legal perspective for how it impacts us as an agency.
There is nothing in our project description involving any change in extraction of groundwater or any, you know, there isn't anything in our use of groundwater that's related to this or that's included in this project or covered by the draft environmental impact report. I think there's going to be some major questions in implementing these new groundwater laws, which basically, there's some milestones in 2017 and 2020 and 2022. There are going to be some big questions about how these groundwater sustainability agencies, I think they call them, that are overseeing groundwater, can change surface water rights based on the connection between surface and groundwater and the overall watershed budgets that are referenced in the law. I think these laws are going, while they're a good idea in the interest of preserving California's groundwater, I think they're going to make a lot of work for lawyers. I mean, because, you know, surface water rights are so well established in California's history, and now there's this implication in these laws that a groundwater sustainability agency can, in order to protect groundwater, somehow restrict or allocate surface water rights. So there's going to be plenty of controversy over that. But I can't see any reason, based on what I know about those laws, to you know, to try to bring them into our discussion of the Denniston San Vicente project. And the conclusion of a lot of the hydrology work that we did, and getting the hydrology right and complete was a big reason for the long delay in getting this document out. The conclusion of that work by the people who really have more experience and have looked at these watersheds more than any other firm, the conclusion of Balanced Hydrologics is that our project will not affect the groundwater. That the groundwater basin there is recharged by flows in the watershed above our points of diversion. So our diversions will not affect the recharge of groundwater, and that was one of Montera's big concerns. Montera Water and Sanitary District commented on our notice of preparation, and actually had a letter prepared by Balanced Hydrologics that expressed concerns about groundwater. And we went to Balance, who was our consultant as well, and said, answer these questions, make sure that our document answers these questions. And I think it does. And I've told them that, and I think it's a pretty imposing document at almost 700 pages, so
The total cost of?
I haven't totaled it up. It's in the range of $400,000.
I got a question. Did Montera participate in any kind of a scoping session?
We didn't have a scoping session. The notice of preparation described the scope, and everyone had an opportunity to comment on the scope and ask questions. And we got comments from a number of agencies,
Including Montero?
including Montera, yeah. And Appendix H of the draft EIR is a groundwater technical memorandum that in its introduction says, here's the questions we're going to answer, and they're the questions that Balance Hydrologics asked on behalf of Montera Water and Sanitary District, in the interest of protecting their water supply, their groundwater supply in the airport aquifer. So, and we think it does that.
Any more comments? Chris?
The reason I asked, the price of this, $400,000, I can't vote to give them 15 more days to prepare a document that is gonna attempt to shred the $400,000 worth of work we did. And they're gonna run our tab up at tens of thousands, if not another couple $100,000 in attacking this document. And that's my prediction, and take it for what it is. I'm not gonna give them 15 more days to come attack us and cost this district more and more money. So my vote is no.
Well, to be honest, I concur. I think you're right. They have pretty much all this month to respond within the 45-day period. And all it really does is allow them to respond within the required time period. They can still follow their responses, or we can respond to their comments after that period closes anyway, which is typically what happens, I think, with environmental documents. So I kind of agree with Chris.
While the tone of this letter is friendly and respectful, the comments are not gonna be. And it's gonna be, Patrick here and his colleagues are gonna be billing us to defend this document, and it's gonna be very, very expensive.
Probably be Alan Lilly,
Yeah.
his colleagues, since
Yeah.
he's been so involved in this.
Yeah, and this is gonna cost this district dearly to defend water rights that we've had since the 60s.
We'll just take a motion on this, or just this as a standalone item?
Well, this is part of your general manager report on the status of
Yeah,
this.
we don't normally
If-
approve the general manager's
Yeah,
report.
but you've got a request before you.
Yeah.
You could take a motion, or it sounds like
Or
you,
can we just give verbal direction to Dave?
well, it's, if there's no motion, the answer is no. We'll just go with the 45 days, because the direction from Alan is it would require action
I
to go
see.
from the 45 days that we've identified to extend it for 60 days. And by the way, because there's only 3 directors here tonight, it would require unanimous approval.
Oh,
Because any,
interesting.
any action by a county water district must be done by a majority of the board, so
Interesting.
it
Oh,
requires,
the board,
it
not
requires,
the attendees.
right, it requires 3 affirmative votes, regardless of how many directors are present at the meeting, and that's unique to the county water district law.
I
So
would
just so you're
Okay,
aware.
no, very good. I would suggest we move on to the recycled water committee meeting.
Good call, thank you.
Okay. There were a couple of meetings of the Recycled Water Committee that happened while I was on vacation, but I did get to participate in one meeting. After our board meeting in August, the Recycled Water Committee met on August 13th and again on September 2nd. Director Coverdell attended both those meetings, and I assume that he will give the board a report. I just wanted you to know that that was happening. What I understand is going on now, based on the September 2nd meeting, is that on September 2nd, the non-SAM members of this joint committee, if that's what it should be called, left after a short time to allow the SAM Recycled Water Committee to talk about principles of agreement. That's kind of where we stopped last time in 2010, I think it was. We attempted to come up with some principles of agreement about who was going to pay for what and who would make the decisions and things like that, and that's really where we have to go again in order to get any serious recycled water effort started. And I think everybody agrees on that. And they went back to not necessarily to the February 2010 principles that this board approved, but to some previous versions, like November 2009. So, but ultimately we need to get to a point where SAM and CCWD can agree on ultimately we'll need to have a memorandum of understanding or an agreement to do recycled water. The basis for that agreement is something that the two agencies need to come together on. That's something that we weren't able to do before. So I think they anticipate that the committee would come up with something they would discuss with the SAM board at their meeting on September 22nd. And then we may have something to talk about at our meeting in October. So that's a limited update on recycled water.
Thank you.
But there's a good deal of enthusiasm, or at least some people are enthusiastic about it. Alan Alifano of the City Council is chairing this joint committee, and he's pushing hard to get these meetings scheduled, and he really believes that recycled water should go ahead. So maybe things can be different.
And the customer has come forward and has addressed.
At the August 13th meeting, Bruce Russell of Ocean Colony Partners came and talked about their desire to have recycled water and the extent to which they'll participate. So Ocean Colony Partners understands that they would be the initial customer, pretty much the sole initial customer, and that they would have to pretty much bear the burden of paying for the recycled water facility construction and operation, even though they would only use it a few months a year. So.
Well, good. That's where it starts, with the customer coming
Right.
forward.
And I think when one steps forward, it's easier to get other people to follow on. Yeah. This next one, naturally I see we've managed to come up with something controversial, exciting, and public passion with another bridge discussion. I was really
No, this will
impressed.
be pretty low key.
Now, you'll find volunteers who will anonymously work on this. And
Yeah.
state will swoop in
As soon as they get their
steal
shovels back.
Steal their jewels. I mean, this
Middle of the
could,
night,
I
yeah.
mean, I see a lot of newspaper material out of this one.
No, this is very low key.
What tractor you'll drive over
Hardly
the
anybody
bridge.
knows this bridge even exists, I'm sure. Except the people that live in the, was that Pine Street neighborhood down there. Yeah, I may have mentioned it before that we have a pipeline that runs right underneath Pilocitos Creek, right underneath the creek, with hardly any cover on it, and that of course makes it vulnerable to large flood events and even oscillations in pressure. You could actually get inflow of some sort.
What size is that pipe?
It's an 8-inch.
Oh, so it'd be the lifetime.
Yeah, so we got the idea that let's just put this on this bridge, and that alleviates having to, jack and bore underneath the creek. We just need to get it out of its vulnerable position. So I successfully contacted the manufacturer of the bridge, and they ran some preliminary analysis on putting this pipe on, and they said, yeah, it's very doable, and it would hardly reduce the load capacity of the bridge itself. So at this point, I have asked them to provide me where, when they did their calculations, what was the position of that pipe on the bridge, according to their calculations that they did. And then we will turn it over to Jim Teeter to come up with a design. And we do have money allotted for this construction. It's not a very large job, but it will do much to, again, improve the reliability of our distribution system and water quality and safety. So that was one of the things that happened. I was surprised I got a response from them so quickly. Sunrise Court was the other thing that happened. There was a lot of street damage there from the asphalt that was lifted up.
Where's Sunrise Court?
It's at the very end of Clipper Ridge,
Off Bridgeport?
at the end of Bridgeport. The asphalt, which turned out to be like 8 inches of asphalt, was actually lifted up 4 inches above the curb, above the gutter in a lot of places. So we got that complete. Not without some controversy with some of the residents. They were trying to claim that the main break cracked their driveways, etc. But once we excavated, you could see that there was nothing, the ground was very stable underneath their property, and so we went on our merry way and got that done.
No free driveways this week.
Yeah, no free driveways this week. But on the same line, and it's not in my report, we just had a series of 4 main breaks in one day along one stick of pipe along Miramontes Point Road between Alves and Miramontes Tank. And we actually had some severe breaks there a year ago, a little over a year ago. Turns out that soil is quite corrosive. So we're regrouping, we're talking about possibly replacing that pipeline with plastic. We lost an awful lot of water during that, but that wasn't in my report, but you'll see it next month. Other things that I think were worthy, we got good security around Miramar Tank now. We are completing some more cosmetic work around El Granado Tank 2, basically painting the pump house the same color as the tank. It's looking really nice over there. So if you have any other questions, I'll be glad to answer any questions you have on my report.
I just had a quick one. Considering the pipe bridge or the pedestrian bridge for pipe crossing, did you guys give any thought to that for the pipe by Main Street?
Well, yeah, that was our original.
You mean constructing a pedestrian bridge?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm just wondering if there was like an offset for, the protection of the pipe itself, getting it out of there, not having to jack and bore underneath the creek. If somehow that cost could be offset with a pedestrian
We
facility.
didn't do a feasibility study on that. It was brought up, but we're not bridge makers.
I know.
We started
Yeah.
I know.
We started having visions of, the kinds of controversies about aesthetics and, somebody say, well, wouldn't it be nice to have a sundial bridge in Half Moon Bay? And the next thing you know,
I'm not getting that.
we'd be embroiled in a lot of issues that don't relate to our
Be a whole
mission
new
of
city
providing
theme, the
reliable water
bridges of
service.
Half
Right.
Moon Bay.
Well, there would also be, we'd have to get pretty close to the riparian.
And
Up
we,
to the
we
creek
think
there.
that jacking and boring is a much, even though it's expensive, in the long run is quicker, just because of the permitting issues that don't come up. We still have to get a stream bed alteration agreement, but it's much simpler than any project that would involve actually going in and doing construction in the riparian zone, the stream. So,
Yeah, it was just a question, because
Yeah.
you're
No, it
pulling,
did come up.
you're pulling one out of
We
the
thought
ground
about
now to
We
raise
even
it above it.
discussed just a bridge just for the pipeline itself,
Mhm.
with abutments on either side. But again, you're in the riparian corridor, and that triggers a lot of other issues with fish and games. And then not only that, but the liability of kids jumping on it and crawling across it, et cetera, so we figured we just won't go there.
Once we finish the jack and bore section, that should be reliable and maintenance-free for many decades, in contrast to a bridge, or a pipe on a bridge, which always requires maintenance. And then we'd probably be maintaining the bridge as well, so.
I see the hydraulic model is continuing to pay dividends. Are we still,
Well, the hydraulic model is, there's a valve somewhere in Dave Leah's farm that has eluded us. And the hydraulic model indicates that there's an obstruction somewhere between the edge of Bridgeport and the treatment plant. And we have looked at every valve that exists that we know of, and they're open. We've exercised them, we made sure they were open. But there's this one valve that's listed on 2 different maps that is buried somewhere, and we are frantically, well, not frantically looking at it, but we are looking for it when we have the time. We got Mr. Leah's permission, but it involves, backhoe work, potholing, scraping the ground. We're searching for it. So hopefully by September, I'll say we found it and it was half closed and it solves all of our problems.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, this could be a big
It could
key
be,
to solving the Bridgeport problem. I mean,
yes, it
yeah,
could.
Yeah, no, and then again, the value of that model. That's
See?
awesome.
Anything else? Anybody else?
Cool. Seems very good. Thank you. Kathleen, you're up.
I think Joanne has a handout.
I do.
And so the handout, just for your information, just following up on your request for outreach update. So tracking the expenses and the actual activity on outreach for around the drought. So since the ordinance was passed the last board meeting that has the mandatory water use prohibitions and restrictions, we've tried to we've done a direct mailing, we've done an e-newsletter to everyone we have an email address for. It was published in the paper, it's on our website. So we're trying to just ramp up the outreach so that our customers know what the new regulations are to help them comply. And we are starting to get feedback, ramping up from our outreach, so people are reading it. And so if you have any questions about the ordinance and the outreach, I could answer that for you now.
I had a question. Are we giving out auto shut off?
Yes.
We are here, so when people have a question, I can say you can go to the water district and get a auto shut off.
Yes, well, those are handed out free, so to help
Okay.
people comply.
Okay.
Okay, so, then moving on, there is new groundwater legislation that was, passed by the Assembly and Senate. As far as I know, it hasn't been signed by the governor yet, but I don't think there's any doubt he'll sign it. So that's kind of what we're assuming at this point. So we're already participating with the Department of Water Resources with their CASGEM program, which is their elevation monitoring. So we report quarterly elevation levels in a monitoring well we have in the airport subbasin to the Department of Water Resources up to a database. And then with this new legislation, I was contacted by DWR and they are interested in us expanding that. So they have 2 other wells that are on private property used for irrigation. One is near Frenchman's Creek subbasin and another one's in the Pilarcitos Creek subbasin. And they would like us to take over monitoring that, and including that in with it. So they've already contacted us regarding, ramping up monitoring. But the Half Moon Bay Terrace has been ranked by the Department of Water Resources as very low priority. So the new legislation that came out is targeting medium and high priority basins. So they're targeting basins that have known overdraft and subsidence in the basins and subbasins. So I don't anticipate us being directly, immediately affected by this new legislation. Most of the focus is going to be in the Central Valley and other areas where they have overdraft issues. But there always can be new legislation and changes, and this drought is really pushing a lot of the effort in the groundwater monitoring. So it could change, but from my first review of the legislation, it doesn't look like it'll directly affect us, because we were ranked a very low priority basin since we don't have any known overdraft or subsidence in the Half Moon Bay Terrace. So do you have any questions about the groundwater?
No, that's it, thank you.
Some other legislation that was again passed by the Assembly and the Senate, but has not again been signed yet by the governor, but again, the governor's expected to sign it, is in regards to the 2015 Urban Water Management Plan. And one of them, it allows an extension for the submittal of the plan out to July 1st, 2016. And that is because some of the other legislation has some new requirements and new reporting. And the Department of Water Resources needs time to get the guidance book out for the agencies to follow. And there's gonna be new reporting forms and new formats. So they need to give agencies enough time to, adapt to the new requirements and get their plans in. So hopefully, that would be a great help to us if we got that extended out to July 1st, 2016. And then the changes that are proposed for the water loss reporting, it will be, so we've hired Water Systems Optimization to help us with that, and so I think that's gonna work out really well with the extension, and then we'll have time to work with the consultants, and then we will meet the requirements, the new requirements for the Urban Water Management Plan in 2015, at least for water loss reporting. And so that's pretty much it, if there's any other questions. No?
Thank you very much. Do we have any requests for future meetings?
No.
We did have, there is one thing we need to address at this meeting or next meeting. The November meeting falls, the second Tuesday falls on the Veterans Day holiday, November 11th. So we will need to reschedule that meeting. If the board, one suggestion we'd have is that we reschedule to the next day, Wednesday, the 12th, the 12th at 7 p.m. And we'll, if that works for folks here, then we'll pursue that date.
You should actually put that on the agenda
We'll
for
put it
the
on the
next
agenda,
board
right.
meeting. But it's nice to give them a heads up what you're thinking about, and then they can take some formal action. Because it's your regular board meeting,
Right.
so set by resolution.
And this is when, November?
Mhm.
November, so instead of the 10th, we do the,
No, instead of the 11th, we were proposing the 12th.
right, that's the 12th.
Was it
Wednesday.
11th hour, 11th day, or how's that go?
So if that works for the folks here, then we'll
Thumbs up for
we'll
me.
work on that date and have it on
Yeah,
next month's
that's
agenda. Okay.
fine by me.
Yeah. Okay. Without further ado, I bring this meeting to a close.
Wow. Is that a record?
I think so. 7:44 minutes. I think so, not quite.
It is a record.
Could have been.